Hey guys, so today I'm gonna be looking at people whose gut feelings were right. So yeah, let's just get right into the video. When I was in my late teens, I was hanging out with a friend in my room. Suddenly, I started feeling panicky with something telling me to leave the house. I decided to listen to my gut and told my friend we had to go to the store right now. We went outside to find my dad passed out in his truck looking really sick and pale. My friend and I pulled him out of the truck and he called 911 while I performed CPR on my dad and saved his life. Later, I found out that he had choked on his own vomit. Who knows what would have happened if I didn't have the overwhelming urge to walk to the store for no reason. That just sounds nasty though, but thank God she saved his dad. Man, whenever I hear stories about CPR, I feel like I need to know it, just in case something happens. Why was I never taught how to do this? I was never taught CPR at school, unless you did a subject on health and then they'll teach you. But I feel like it should just be taught to everyone, just in case something happens. You know how you always see those scenes in movies and then they'll be like pressing the chest and then they'll give mouth to mouth? Honestly, I feel like if I had to do CPR, I would just go off from the scenes in movies, Seeing 3 people walking down my street and had the worst gut feeling that something was not right with them. I went home and as it turns out, they broke into my home and robbed me. They followed him back. Oh my goodness. Yeah, what do you do when you see 3 people like following you, right? Because if you run home, then they're gonna know where you live. Not me, but when my mother was a teenager, she was supposed to go babysitting for a family she had babysat for many times before. She had a bad feeling about it one night and called them. They pleaded with her that it would only be a few hours, but she insisted and they said okay and got another babysitter. That night, their house was broken into. I sometimes think about how different her life would be if she did go that night. My mom's been through a lot of stuff. Yo, I feel bad for the other babysitter who had to witness all that. Wow, gut feelings are just weird. I feel like people have them, but not everyone gets them when they need to get them, Because this mom got the gut feeling, but the other babysitter didn't, Unless she ignored her gut feeling. I dropped my blind mother off to unlock the front door, and I went to put the tandem away in the shed. I get to the back and the phrase horror movie and adrenaline pumped through my head. I froze for a second trying to figure out why I was so scared. My mum screams, the back door flies open and this guy runs out. I don't know who he is and he looks unhinged. Not like a robber, he just looks insane. Our eyes meet and he runs back inside. I hear his footsteps and I take off, but there's no way I can get around the house before he does. Thank God my mum had already started running. He chased us about half a block before we made it to the neighbor's house and called the police. They got there and couldn't find him. I knew he was still there and I told my mum. Right before they left, my mum asked a policeman that she happened to know, it's a small town, to look one more time. The guy was hiding under our swamp cooler. Nothing like that has ever happened to me before or after. What the heck? Ooh. Thank gosh they looked one more time. Because what if the police left and then something would have happened, Yo, that is so scary. Someone's just hiding in your house and the police can't find them. Oh! When I was 11, I saved up my allowance and wanted to buy a toy. My dad took my sister and I to the local toy store and I bought an awesome lightsaber. Got in the back seat of the car and we drove home. I should mention this was during a mid-nor'easter storm in 1996 and the wind and rain were just starting to pick up. We pulled into the driveway and my dad and sister got out of the car and went in the house. I was so excited about my new toy that I had to open it in the car, so I did. And while I was admiring the toy, I felt something speak to me. All of a sudden, I felt the overwhelming urge to get out of the car and go into the house. I have to go inside now, so I did. I walked in the door, took off my shoes, and turned around to see one of the huge maple trees in my front yard fall over in a wind gust onto the back seat of the car where I was sitting not 30 seconds after I had the urge to go inside. I went out to look and there was a branch piercing the seat where I was sitting. That is creepy. I let my dogs out on the balcony to lay out in the sun. After about 5 minutes, I had this visual cross my mind of one of my dogs having a bad reaction to a bee sting. They had never been stung before. I opened the door to let them back in and one of my dog's entire face was swollen up, like a balloon. She had eaten a bee and had a bad allergic reaction. She's fine now, but that sucked. But this gut feeling didn't stop it. It didn't stop it. What? The dog had already taken the hit. The poor papa, I'm glad she's fine now though, I'm glad. Oh my gosh, I've seen so many pictures of dogs getting swollen because they ate a bee or like a bee stung them, and like half of the face is just like bigger than the other. It's sad, but at the same time it's funny. I don't know. But I feel so bad. My grandma did once. This was back in the 80s, I think. So my grandma was vacuuming and she had this terrible feeling that my aunt was in danger. My aunt was about 5 at the time. She was in the front yard playing in the driveway. My grandpa's friend was pulling out and my aunt was right behind the car. Just before it happened, my grandma screamed and he stopped the car, inches away from my aunt. He would have ran her over. Oh man. Have you guys ever seen those videos where like the parent just saves the kid like a second away from danger? Those are crazy, man. Parent gut instincts, parent reflexes, okay? Jeez, crazy. I was in the car on the freeway in the back seat when I felt super nervous, ducked and curled into fetal position. A couple seconds later, we crashed and a signpost came through my window a few inches above me. What is with these things, man? Oh my gosh. It would have been a disaster if they didn't take that fetal position. When I was 8, I told my father not to go on a date that night because something bad was going to happen. He told me not to worry, that I would be fine with my grandfather. When grandfather and I got back to his house, he laid on the couch and died in front of me from a stroke. That is so scary. That is so traumatic to witness your own dad dying in front of you and you just feel helpless because you just couldn't do anything. Oh. So he knew something bad was gonna happen, but he didn't know how to stop it. I was walking home from a party when I was in college. It was 6 a.m. and actually a little bright, very pretty, very quiet. All I could hear were my footsteps. I was still in my dress and heels and 1 house away from where I lived. A horrible feeling came over me, so I stopped, took off my shoes and stayed perfectly still. About a minute later, I was starting to doubt myself when a man stepped out of the hedges and looked straight at me. I turned around as casually as possible and went down an alley. As soon as I was out of his line of sight, I took off. I ran into my house and locked the door and turned to look out the window. He came running around the corner with a knife about 2 seconds later. What the? This is just crazy to think about because, like, what the heck was he doing there at 6 a.m., you know? Like, was he waiting for, like, a victim? You know what I mean? He was just waiting for someone. That is creepy. I actually don't know what I would do if I was in this situation. Like, you're walking home and then suddenly a man just appears and then he just looks at you and you look at him and what do you do? Like, obviously you're feeling scared. What do you do? Run? But then you feel like if you run, he'd chase after you. Just do what this girl did. Just turn around as casually as possible. That is so not casual though. Like, you make eye contact and then you're walking that way. And then all of a sudden you're like, you know what? I'm lost. I need to go. When I was about 12 years old, I had a nightmare one night that I could see my identical twin sister standing outside the porch waving her arms at me as if to dissuade me from coming outside. She looked dead and was lit up by an eerie green light. It was so scary that I can still see it vividly in my mind today. Oh my gosh, this is like a horror movie. When I woke up, my heart was thudding in my chest. Normally when I had a nightmare, I often did as a kid, I would go wake up my stepmom and would take me downstairs and make me some cocoa. We would sit at the kitchen table and talk about it until I felt better. That night, for some reason, I stayed put in my bed and couldn't bring myself to wake her up. The next morning, we were awoken to shouting downstairs. A man who was drunk or something had broken into our back porch. The porch connected to the kitchen where I'd have been with my stepmom. He'd stripped down naked inside the porch, messed with some of my dad's tools, and then at daybreak had gone outside when he heard our neighbor lady hauling her trash to the curb. She thought it was my father and called out to him, at which point he'd gone after her. Police were called and he was taken away. There were all kinds of hunting supplies tools on that back porch, including a hatchet. I shudder to think what would have happened if we'd wandered downstairs in our nightgowns and he'd been just on the other side of a pane of glass. Thanks, sis. Was their identical twin sister still alive? That is so crazy to get like a sign in your dream. Because most of the time, dreams are just dreams and you just assume it's just a dream, you know, it's not real, it's just a dream. I still remember a lot of my nightmares. The ones that I cry myself awake or something, or like want to wake up. Those kind of nightmares. Oh, hate them so much. I don't even know if it means anything, but it's just still in my head because it was so scary. Not me, but my dad. He told me he was helping his friend jumpstart a car along the side of the road. The front ends of both cars are facing each other, and he's in the middle hooking up the jump leads. He says he got this gut feeling that he shouldn't be where he was, and took a few steps away from the cars. A semi proceeded to smash into the back of the car not 30 seconds later, crushing the two cars together in a huge wreck. Thank God for that gut feeling. Whoa, he got a feeling that he was about to be crushed, you know. He was like, oh, not today. You know, I feel like fixing cars in the middle of the road, or like fixing cars on the road, is just dangerous in general. So be safe when you're doing that, okay? But then it's even crazier because he was pretty safe, but the person driving was just not safe. Well, that's it for the video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Tell me in the comments down below what your thoughts are. And as always, thanks for watching. Hope you guys liked it. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye!